Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of Step Espresso, your daily shot of fitness. I am your host, as always, Johnny Landals from Next Step Nutrition, bringing you the podcast that helps you overcome the nutrition confusion and get results for life. Today, we're on episode 411, and oftentimes we're looking at portion sizes. We also look then at how many meals we should eat a day. Now, the thing is that there are many myths around this in terms of, I remember I used to believe that eating smaller, more frequent meals would lead to stoking my metabolic fire, making my metabolism go faster, and meaning that I would lose more body weight, which of course isn't true, unfortunately. So there isn't evidence for that if it is something that you have been told or something that you believe right now, so you don't need to worry too much about that. With regards to meal frequency, the only thing we really need to worry about it is how it affects our overall quantity of food. Right? How many meals we're having a day, how equals how much food are we having a day, basically. Some people prefer to be really satiated, so really filled from their meals. And so as such, some people prefer to have larger meals less frequently because that allows you to worry about less to do, gives you less choices to make, fewer choices to make, in a day. And you don't have to cook as much. And that can be very, very useful for a lot of people. Now, if you listen to yesterday's episode about portion control and you're now employing this eat slowly method, you might find yourself actually eating a bit less at your meals and then thinking, well, what if I get hungry further down the line? Then what do I do? Now, each of us are different with our digestion and with our bodies, but most of the time, people ideally, really, get hungry every few hours, right? Every 3 to 5 hours, which is why where a lot of people trip up is that afternoon window between lunch and dinner, because people don't plan a snack in their afternoon window or a meal and then feel guilty for thinking about food or eating, and oftentimes just binge on biscuits and other junk food because they don't have anything available to them, and they get low energy and hungry and therefore look for high energy foods. So if we think about the fact that we might be hungry every 3 to 5 hours, it makes sense for us to have meals and snacks for that amount of time. So most people will probably have 2 to 3 meals a day and potentially 1 to 2 snacks, and there is nothing wrong with that. If you wanted to have 5 to 6 or even 7 small meals every 3 hours, you could do that too. It's going to totally depend on your personality, your preferences, what you have the time for, and what what you want to achieve that day. Personally, I take each day really as it comes, right? I'll have breakfast when I feel like it, so when I feel hungry for it, and then after that, it becomes a kind of, it depends on what the day brings me, but every 3 to 5 hours is usually a good rule of thumb when it comes to eating foods, and whether that's then a bigger meal, so then I don't eat for 5 hours, or whether it's a smaller meal and I eat then in 3 hours, it depends on the time. I feel like if you're super busy and you want to make sure you're getting protein in, you want to make sure you're hitting your calories, then preparing food in advance definitely helps, but a lot of the time this can make us very rigid in our thinking, very rigid in our planning, and it can make us very hard to adjust if things go off plan, right? If things go awry, we then think, how are we going to make this work? So a good rule to go by would be, if you're eating fairly low calorie meals or fairly small meals, then have more frequent meals, right? Have more frequent meals and snacks that day. If you are then faced with a big meal or something really large, or something out of sync as usual, or that you're going to have a big meal, you can then think of having a lower meal frequency. So, okay, well, rather than 5 meals today, I'm going to have 3. Okay, rather than having my, snack at this time, I'm going to have a bigger meal then, so I just won't have the snack. All right, okay, I've had a really big brunch, so that's basically breakfast and lunch together, and now I'm just going to have a snack and a dinner. Oh, okay, I've got a Sunday roast with all the trimmings, so I'm going to have a small breakfast now, and then I'll wait until I'll have a small snack in the afternoon if I'm hungry before that, or I'll push my roast dinner to sort of 3 or 4, and then I won't really need to eat again that day. So your meal frequency starts to adjust based on the size of the meal you're eating or the size of the meal you're anticipating. But if you're using the portion control sheet from yesterday, you're eating slowly and stopping when satisfied, you might have found yourself getting a bit hungrier earlier than you would have liked. And then that's okay, because now you can just think, well, I'll have smaller meals, but more frequently. And you can always leave food for later and have that same portion later on, rather than having to think about making something all up from scratch. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Next Step Espresso, guys. If you found it useful, I would love it if you could share it with someone who would also find it useful and spread the good word. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow for another daily shot of fitness.